Right, so in this video, I'm going to pick one player from each Premier League team. There's a little bit slept on, a little bit of a dark horse, a little bit of a sleeper, who I think is going to do big things this season, whether you can use that for just interest levels or your fantasy teams or betting, whatever. So here we go. So going to go alphabetically. So we'll go with Arsenal first. So these obviously are like non-obvious picks. I'm not just going to say Saka, Gyökeres, right? For Arsenal, I genuinely think Noni Madueke is going to do really big things and step his career up a level at Arsenal. Martinelli don't seem to be holding that left wing down very well. Trossard's been kind of rumoured to sort of maybe be on the way out this season. I think that might happen, but I also think that Madueke has been bought in for that price tag as well, 50 million, to challenge for a starting 11 point, and I think he will be able to do that. I think it's the right structure, it's the right team for him. They played the way he's going to want to play, and with that big number 9 up front, Gyökeres, I think he's going to chip in with goals and assists. Next up, we've got Aston Villa, and for this one, I think Donyell Marlin. I know it might not be the craziest hot take or call or whatever, but I think outside of Watkins, Tielemans, and that kind of player, I think he's going to do really, really well. I think he's got less competition this time round because we've got the loanies, Rashford and Asensio. They're now gone. I know they did bring in a guess on, I think. Don't really know too much about him, but I would say that Marlon, his versatility across that front line, I think he can play left wing, right wing, or centre forward. I think that's going to help him lock down quite a lot more minutes this season, and I think he's got the talent to really like bring that Aston Villa attack up with him, sort of thing. So at Dortmund, he kind of did that. His pace and his sort of link up play was really good, and I think that's exactly what Villa need up front there. Now, Bournemouth. So I think the forward they signed, I think his name is Krupi Jr. They signed him from French team Lorient, I think. In the Ligue 2 it was. So he's not. To be fair, it's not the first French league. It's the second, but I think he's something like 18 in 30 games. He's got 22 goals and 2 assists, I think, which is pretty good. Like he can only play at the level that he's at, and I think he's going to be a really nice addition to that front line, especially with there's been sort of like a space available. You got Semenyo and Evan Nilsson who are kind of pretty much locked down there, but then that other wing spot, which could be Sinistera, it could be Dango Atara, who might actually leave for Brentford. There's rumours, so I think Krupi Jr. is going to be able to work his way into this squad and really show his kind of like youthful exuberance with some maybe performances off the bench, some cup games, and then I think you'll see him work his way into the squad and become a real nailed on part of that front line. Next, we've got Brentford, and I think Kevin Schade is his time to shine now. You've got, I mean, a mass exodus at Brentford, right? If you're a Brentford fan, you must be a little bit worried, I think, with the manager going, the team captain Norgard, the highest scorer in Burmo, and even now the second highest scorer looks like might be going as well with Johan Visser. They have got enough backup there. They've got Igor Thiago. They've got, is it Igor Thiago? I think it's Thiago something over, right? But Kevin Schade is the one, and I think he showed last season that he's got real potential. He didn't quite get enough minutes locked down, but now there's less options up in that front 3 or front 2 or 4, however this new manager's going to play it. I think Kevin Schade is a bit of a lock there, and he showed as he got more minutes towards the end of the last season that he can do it, and I think it's going to be a big breakout season for him. Now on to Brighton. I think this is one of the players I'm most excited about this season, and it's Jorginho Rutter, right? I think he is really good. I think he's now becoming sort of that main number 10 that they're kind of building around, kind of like the João Pedro figure of last season, but I think he's going to be even better than that. I think he's going to really show that team will kind of form around him, and he's going to be able to link that play up from that number 10 role really well. I think he can even probably play number 9 and both wings as well if they need him to. They've got Brighton have got a lot of players in those roles that they can kind of like rotate and switch around, but I think the mainstay pretty much will be you'll have Matoma who's going to get a lot of minutes, but I think Jorginho Rutter is going to really have a good breakout season. Next we move on to Burnley, and I think Marcus Edwards will be a standout performer in their team in the attacking line. I'll be honest. I don't know too much about the Burnley squad. I do know that there's a defender, Esteve, who's looking really good. I like the idea. I like the look of him. Sorry, but Marcus Edwards is a player I've sort of followed the career of a little bit. He's been at Spurs. He's been at Sporting Lisbon, I think, and he's now at Burnley. I think he is. He's the right kind of quality they need for the Premier League, right? I think Burnley last year in the Championship were really, really good defensively, but that all kind of changes when you move up to the Premier League. You can't really have that anymore. You need to sort of have a bit more finesse in your play. You can't just be defensive because you're going to get bad every single week, right? But so you need a little bit of impetus going forward and a little bit of that quality if you can. I know it's hard, the budgetary constraints and all that kind of thing, but I think that is the kind of player that a promoted team really needs to sort of chip in with goals and assists and just generally keep possession a little bit more for those kind of teams. I think Marcus Edwards is that guy for Burnley. So next on to Chelsea, and this one was kind of tough for me to decide on. You've got a lot of young players that could have really good breakthrough seasons, of course, but which one are going to get minutes? Which ones are going to impress? So although it was tough, I do think I've settled on Esteval. He signed from, I can't remember, the Brazilian Serie A, and he got, I think, something like 15 goals, 12 assists, something like that. He hasn't had too much like proven experience in any kind of like top European league or anything, but what I can say is watching him, the eye test, he absolutely passes with flying colours. He looks really, really exciting. And I just think there's space in that kind of forward line to sort of, for someone to nail down a position there. You know what I mean? So I think Palmer's got one of them. I think clearly Maresca wants to play a 4-2-3-1 more often than not. So you've got one number 9, two wingers and a 10. I think Palmer probably locks down that 10 more often than not. You've got probably Pedro Neto and João Pedro kind of competing there a little bit, but not nailed down yet. And I think Esteval can this season really break through with some nice performances. I don't think he'll go in straight away, of course, although he may do. I'm not too sure. But the nature of that Chelsea team, that rotation, constant rotation, no one's really nailed down except Cole Palmer, gives him a really good opportunity to show off a little bit of Brazilian flair, something a bit different, something that's gonna sort of get him head and shoulders out from the rest of the pack. And I think he is the most likely to be able to do that. Next, we've got Crystal Palace, and I think Chris Richards. Sorry. By the way, if I sound a bit bunged up, I apologise if it's kind of hard to listen to, but I've been ill for a little bit, and I just really wanted to make this video, and it's sort of like Premier League starting tonight, so had to do it. Anyway, Chris Richards of Crystal Palace. I've watched him pre-season. I saw him in the Community Shield against Liverpool, which is, one of the best tests you could ever hopefully hope to come across, right? Salah, Wirtz, Gakpo, all those guys. And he looked good. He looked good. Obviously, Ekitike scoring that goal, he's kind of not responsible for it, but, is part of that. All that aside, though, I think he is really incredible for defensive contributions. When I look at his stats, I do a little bit of fantasy. I do like the FPL every season, and he's in my team because of the new like defensive contribution points you get for him, and he's like right up there. He's like clearances, duels won, all of that. He's very, very good at. You might now have Mark Gahey. He's kind of rumoured to maybe leave for Liverpool, so we'll see what happens there. But even more so, right, for the purpose of this video, I think he's going to show himself to be like a really, really top level defender, where he's sort of flown under the radar a little bit in sort of previous seasons. At Everton, I'm going to go with Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. I think he's been a little bit underestimated his whole career. He's not quite had the right mix around him. At Leicester, he kind of looked okay. Chelsea, I mean, I do understand why he signed for Chelsea because of the big amount of money, but it didn't help his career at all. I think Everton is the right move for him, absolutely. I think he'll get a little bit of sort of creative freedom in the middle there, which is something they don't really have all that much. Playing next to Jack Grealish as well, whether that does happen often or whether it doesn't. He's also got, like Dwight McNeil, Njai, those kind of guys. I think that's going to really suit him. And I think, although they wouldn't build a team around him, I think, like I said, he's going to have a bit more license to create and sort of be the focal point of those attacks. For Fulham, I'm going to go with Emile Smith-Rowe. I think he looked okay last season. I think he needs to kind of familiarise himself. He's been at Arsenal for so long. I think he's going to have a bit of a transition period. But this season, although they haven't made too many positive signings or any that I can actually think of, come to think of it, I do think he will have familiarised himself with his teammates a little bit more. And he is that kind of player that can sort of sit in that 10 role and kind of make everything click. And I think that is what he'll do this season. Now for Leeds, this is another sort of squad I'm not too familiar with, but the striker Piroe or Piro, however you pronounce it, he looks good. He looks like he can kind of like be a Premier League level striker already. He's got good scoring records in the Championship. He's got good physical stats. I think he's just, again, like from an eye test perspective, I think he passes that, and I think he's gonna pick up maybe 10 to 15 goals in the Premier League this season. Whether Leeds do well or not, I think they're very much capable of scoring goals. You've got players like Gnonto and Aronson behind him. I think they'll just be able to set him up quite a few goals, and I think he'll do really well. Right, Liverpool, and obviously, like I'm trying to do like non-obvious picks. They're kind of supposed to be like underdog, dark horse picks. Wirtz is the obvious one. I mean, there's so many obvious ones, but the one I think people are sleeping on just a little bit is Cody Gakpo. And the reason for that is they've lost Liverpool. Well, not lost. I mean, they now don't have Federico Chiesa, Luis Diaz, unfortunately as well, Diogo Jota, all left wingers, right? And as of right now, I don't think Liverpool have a proper competition for that left wing slot outside of Cody Gakpo. And I think what kind of has held Cody Gakpo's game up a little bit has been the lack of reliability of minutes, right? He's either been subbed on at 70 minutes or he's been subbed off at 60 odd minutes or something. I think he's now likely to get way closer to 90 minutes a game, and that will just allow him to build momentum and flow a little bit in that team, and he can really show what he can do, because I think he's an awesome player. Now they've got Ekitike, he's probably going to play that 9 spot. Whether they sign Isak or not, who knows? But like that will be another contender for the 9 spot, not really left wing. So I think Gakpo will be able to lock down that left wing, build some consistency, and really make some big moves this season. So Man City, and again, this is kind of a tough one to pick like a dark horse, because they've got a squad full of awesome players. But I think Tierney Reinders will be really good. I think people are expecting him to be, good, but I think he's obviously, no one can replace Kevin De Bruyne, but I think he is going to be that advanced 8/10 that has those sort of silky dribbling moves that can create a little bit more space. I think he's really good at kind of like pushing the ball out and creating himself just an extra couple of yards, which in a team like Man City, just that's all you need. And then the other players are kind of like providing triangles and really good sort of receiving positions for that like those in behind runs. You've got Erling Haaland, who's always there to be aimed at with a pass. So whether he gets the minutes that he needs or not, I'm not too sure, but I do think he probably will, because eventually, the cream rises to the top. I think he'll show his quality. I think that's what he's bought in for, and I think that is exactly what's going to happen this season. He's going to do really well. Okay, Man United. This is kind of tough because they've made some really good signings this season so far, and I don't think any of them will obviously be really good, right? Sesko, he looks like a really good talent. Just not sure if he's going to do it. Like, it's kind of a bit of a Man United problem, right? Like, they've signed so many good players over the years, but they just don't seem to click. Cunha looks great, and Burmo looks great. I just don't know that they're actually going to work, and this is why it's kind of hard, because I initially want to pick in Burmo because I think he will do good, because I think his like talent will show through. But what I think a few people haven't noticed yet is Dorgu, who's, I think, their left back, but he looks really good. He's nice, and he's young. He's got like really good like physical attributes, and I think he might be, because Amorim wants to play this 5-3-2 system or 3-5-2, whatever way you want to kind of look at it, no matter what, right? And I think that kind of like lends itself to those kind of players like Dorgu, like these wing backs. So you've got the front three seemingly covered, right? Sesko, Cunha, and Burma. That kind of seems to like choose itself. Then you have the midfield of Bruno Fernandes and whoever. But those wing back options are kind of like open there. You know, you got like Dalot. There's not too much competition, is what I'm saying. I think Dorgu's like young and exciting. I think he's really going to push through and work his way into that starting 11 and do pretty well for United this season. Moving on to Newcastle, who, by the way, have had an absolute nightmare of a transfer window. The Isak thing is unbelievable. I'd be gutted if I was him. Anyway, I think there is some sort of silver lining. I don't know if you're a Newcastle fan watching this, whether you'll really go with this, but I think Asula up top, right? I do think Newcastle will have to sign another forward. I don't know what happens with this Isak thing. If he doesn't make a move elsewhere, and he's also said, I'm not playing for Newcastle again, whether he goes back on that because of contractual obligations or whether they're just like, okay, whatever, and they sign someone else, I really don't know what happens there. But what I do know is what I have at the moment is William Osula. I watched him play a couple of times, I think maybe 2 or 3 times during pre-season, and he looks really, really good. He looks awesome. I don't know how people are like rating him or not rating him higher. He works, like he sprints and presses up until the 90th minute every single time. Now, I don't know if that's just pre-season because, you know, he's just come off holiday and he's all rested up, but he looked like he was hungry and he had desire. He looked like he's seen this Isak thing happen and go, right, this is my opportunity, right? I'm going to show everyone what I'm made of. And that's what his mentality seems like. And, you know, whether he's as technically good as Isak, probably not, right? But that mentality and that drive and that desire sometimes can even supersede the skill that another player has with the wrong attitude. So I think Newcastle, don't, you know, if you're a Newcastle fan, don't get too disheartened about this Isak thing, because I think Osula, especially with your Elanga and your Jacob Ramsey sign, and you've got Anthony Gordon, you've got Harvey Barnes, that's some real good players you can feed in to a young, hungry, hard-working striker. It could be like a dream, like a match made in heaven, right? So yeah, Asula for Newcastle, I think he's going to do great if he gets the opportunity, right? They might make another signing, but as of now, that's the one I pick. Okay, Nottingham Forest, right? And I know this is non-obvious picks, but the reason this is a non-obvious pick is because of the nature of what I'm about to say. Right? Murillo, right, the centre-back. I know he's like, yeah, okay, obviously, he was one of the best centre-backs, like, in the league last season. But what I'm going to say is his season this season is going to be such a big breakout season that he will be the target of all the best teams in the world, right? Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, everyone, you name it, right? He is going to this season prove himself to be one of the best centre-backs in the world. Whether you think that he has already done that or not, I think there's still like quite a few, like there's a few you couldn't really argue with, right? I think like, so like William Saliba, like Rudiger, I think there's still a few that like Murillo's not quite in that sort of tier, but this season, by the end of this season, he will be. I'm convinced of that. I think he's helped with like a good defensive structure, obviously, but I think without him, it doesn't go quite as well because he's a good ball carrier. He's really good in the air. His decision making and his positioning are like almost second to none. I think he is probably the second best centre-back in the league behind William Saliba, honestly. And I think, yeah, at the end of the season, everyone's going to see him for what he is, which is absolutely elite. Okay, Sunderland. I don't know if this is obvious or not because, again, I don't know the squad that well, but Simon Adingra, I know like he's like, oh, he's come from Brighton. He's like their new like star winger, bit of an obvious shout, right? But I also think he's going to be their top scorer. He's going to be like they're just their best player overall. I think he's gonna. I don't know. Yeah, I think he's going to bring a bit of extra spark to that Sunderland attack. Who I know they qualified and they did well, but they weren't the most convincing team going forward last season in the Championship. And I think their signing of Guiu from Chelsea is a good signing. Granit Xhaka, absolutely amazing signing, right? That is such a good signing. He is now the captain as well. He's going to be able to link things up a little bit. He's going to have Premier League experience. So is Simon Adingra. And I think that experience with a bit more of a structure around it, right? You've not just got a Premier League winger coming into a bunch of Championship players. They're also signing these other guys who have that experience at the Premier League level. So that's why I think Adingra is going to like really, really like, break through the ceiling on this one. So on to Spurs. Again, this is a tough one because they've got a squad of pretty good players, and the ones that are a little bit like underdogs, dark horses, aren't really going to get that many minutes. But I do think Mohamed Kudus is going to kind of like revolutionise this Spurs attack. I'm still not convinced by Dominic Solanke, but I don't know. I mean, it depends how Thomas Frank plays him. I think he'll have a better season than he did last season, that's for sure. But I think Kudus will be like that kind of like impetus, that strength and power that they're otherwise like lacking a little bit. Son's great and he runs with pace, and Brennan Johnson sort of, again, one I'm not really convinced of all that much, but Kudus is like you're going to get from him. He's very direct, he's strong, like there's not too many fullbacks that can kind of like outmuscle him in the league, so I think he's going to get past his man quite often, and he's going to be able to pull back or even cut inside and score a lot of goals. Yeah, I think he'll be probably one of Tottenham's standout players this season. So yeah, that's that. Okay, on to West Ham, the penultimate team. Their new left-back, Diouf, I haven't heard much about, but I've seen in pre-season. He looks pretty good, very attacking, very positive going forward. I think West Ham, I think they're being slightly overlooked this season. They had a poor performance last season. I do understand that, but they just seem to have too good of a squad to like do that bad again, right? I think they're going to probably try and approach mid-table again. I think they might, finish between 12th and 15th or something, like better than last season for sure. But yeah, Diouf, I think he's sort of like a bit of a symbol of what they want to do. They want to be a bit more of a possession-based team. They want to be a bit positive going forward. And I think Diouf, yeah, he's sort of a symbol of that. And I think he's going to have a good season, yeah. And last but not least, Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think they have got a real good player in Bellegarde. I mean, I don't think he's got the minutes he should have had so far. I think maybe Mateus Cunha was keeping him out of the starting 11 a little bit because they kind of have that similar role. But yeah, this season I think he'll be like a nailed-on starter. You'll have Strand Larsen up top there for him to sort of link up with and provide assists for, or maybe get assisted from. But yeah, when you see him on the ball, he's one of those players, passes the eye test, with flying colours. And yeah, I think he's kind of like, I don't know, there's not too many other players in that Wolves team that can provide that kind of like creativity and sort of free-flowing sort of movement and like sort of flowing football going forward, and I think he can provide that. So that's the video. If you did watch up to this point, thank you so much. That's really amazing, and I really do appreciate that. And while you're here, could I just humbly ask that you consider leaving a like and maybe subscribing if you want to go back through the channel and see other stuff I've made. But in any event, thank you so much for watching. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.